Greetings, got another Dark Visions video. This time we're going to be doing the Dark Necroborg, and today we're going to be using a Riddle team. And we have Wondrous Flash as our leader, Agrius as our breaker, and also our killer buffer. Ramza, Orlando, and Dai are here for damage, and then Roca is here for her field. So let's get right in. And I'm going to be stopping a lot during this video to talk about the gear that lets me use this strategy. Because if you haven't noticed, nobody on this team has any general mitigation, mirage stacks, or magic mitigation. So the gearing is very important for the strategy. So let's start off with Ramza. So Ramza, if we look at her shift form, has no resists, no status immunity. And the way we're going to get over that, because we do have to shift him to get the killer buff that he has up, we're going to use the Treasured Memorial Ring and the Common Garb. Now the Treasured Memorial Ring gives him 1 turn of status immunity, and the Common Garb gives him 1 stack of Mirage. And the first attack the boss is going to use this turn is going to be a random elemental attack. So that will let him go to the shift form and use his ability I Endeavor, which is his 200% Reaper Killer. And he will not have to worry about the elemental attack, and he won't have to worry about the sleep. And the problem with the sleep is that once these units get slept, well, Ramza is going to be the one responsible for putting up the immunity buff next turn. But anyone who gets slept can't dodge that attack. So it becomes important for the rest of them. Agrius is just going to protect go +2 to get a little bit of physical mitigation up for that. Orlando is going to use Crush Weapon. Crush Weapon is an 87% attack break, and that's going to let him, it's basically a 25% damage reduction for everyone on the team who takes that physical attack, so it's better to use that than to guard on him. Roca is going to use the dual cast from the Soul of Thamasa, and she's going to use Bar Stonra from a Materia, and Bar Blizzaga from Shiva. Dai is just going to sing. And so the thing about singing is that you cannot, while you're singing, evade any attacks. So we have some, everyone else is built for evasion besides the SLB units, but Dai is not because it doesn't have any point. So we're using the Mystic Tenacity Materia, which gives a 25% Reaper mitigation buff, and the Saintly Castle, which gives a 30% general mitigation buff, and then we've built him for as much defense as we can manage. And if we look at everyone's resist now, Ramza, like we talked about, is going to Mirage that first attack, but Orlando is immune to everything, Agrius is immune to everything, Dai, Roca, Lightning, they all have the 3 resists that matter, which are Earth, Dark, and Ice. And then for that physical attack that we can't do anything else about, we're going to get a general mitigation buff onto Orlando. So we're going to use Heaven's Guidance, which is from Orin, who is a 4-star tactics unit. And we're going to put that on Orlando. And so you can see we took about 2,000 damage that turn, which is a pretty big chunk of our damage budget to stay under that 5,000. So turn 2, we're going to use Enshrouded by Darkness, which lasts for 3 turns. We need this for turn 4, and that comes from Anima. So on turn 4, when the boss imperils us, we don't have to worry about the dark magic damage as much. Orlando is going to use his Reaper Killer buff this turn, 200%, and then Crush Accessory, and that's going to remove the attack buff that the boss puts up on turn 2. Next thing, we have to get rid of this field the boss just put up, which reduces our resistance by 30%. So on Roca, we're going to triple cast Slow, so that we don't have to worry about the plus accuracy attacks from the boss. Void Lands to overwrite the field, and Gravity Force for a little bit of a spirit buff. Ramza is going to shift back to the base form, and his ability Veil is what we're going to be using to remove status. But the thing about Veil is that it's a spell, so that's not all we're going to do. So we have the dual cast materia on him, so we're going to use Veil, And we also have a shell materia on him, so we're going to put that on Orlando, because Orlando will potentially take a magic hit, because if we look at his resists, he does have the 190 earth, 190 ice, but only 175 dark. So rather than sacrifice any damage, we're going to use Veil and Shell, and hopefully we don't get, double dark attacks, and we can maybe soak one. And then finally, Lightning is going to use Heaven's Guidance on Agrius for those physical attacks. Alright, turn 3. Orlando's just going to guard. He doesn't have anything he needs to do this turn. Agrius is going to triple cast because she needs to start setting up for her burst. Holy Blade Earth, because we are not using any AoE imbues here. Holy Blade Smite, which is an AoE Reaper killer. And then we're going to put up her field. Ramza is going to triple cast Shout, which is a 350 attack and magic buff on Orlando. Tailwind, so that we can get that back up a little bit quicker. And then I Am My Father's Son, which is his mod buff. Lightning is going to Heaven's Guidance, which lasts for 2 turns on Orlando, so we need to reapply that. And then Roca is going to triple cast Quick on Ramza, so that we can get his Shout back up for next turn. And then Slow, so that we can ignore these accuracy attacks. Alright, and now we're going to start setting up for our burst. So Agrius will triple cast Elemental Burst Earth, Ribbon Enchantage, which removes all the imperils on her. So the boss did imperil us 90% Dark Ice Earth. We're going to use that, and then her mod buff. And so then once we do that, as you can see, she still has 100% to all these elements. She won't take any damage this turn. And then Orlando, he does have to just live with the imperils. So as long as we don't get double dark attacks, we should be fine on damage. But Orlando will triple cast Elemental Burst Lightning, the Thunder God's All, which is his mod buff, and then Crush Accessory so we can get rid of this defense buff on the boss. Ramza triple casts Elemental Burst Earth, fill LB, and then he's going to Shout on himself for that attack buff. Wondrous Flash Lightning, triple casts Elemental Burst Lightning, How I Live Is Up to Me, and The Whole World Is Against Us. Roca will quad cast, or just triple cast Slow, Elemental Burst Dark, and her Focus. And then Dai has to shift this turn, which is why his resists are built lower than everyone else's, because he never actually gets hit while imperiled in the base form. Anyways, he's going to Elemental Burst Lightning, and if you were using Dai by himself, you might have to apply his Sword Imperil this turn, but because we have Lightning, who gets that on a cooldown, we have a free action that we're going to use for Draconic Aura Defense, which gives him a 99% mitigation, so we don't have to build him for any kind of resists or evasion. And then finally, Dragonoid Draconic Aura is his focus and mod buff. And you can see Dai is going to take 1 hit, or 1 damage from those physical hits. And he took a decent chunk, 53 damage, because he is on Phoenix and his Earth resist is very negative, and his Ice resist is very negative. All his resists are very negative. Anyways, SLB on Orlando, Agrius, shifted LB on everyone else. And the way this training goes, we start off with Agrius and Ramza because they match an element, and they match absolute mirror of equity frames. And then once they've built that up a little bit, we'll send in Dai, who is a pretty slow He's not a single hit, but he's 2 hit, so same concept. And then we're going to send in an Orlando a little bit after that, and then our Bolting Strike Chainers, Lightning and Roca. The reason we're not starting off the chain with Lightning and Roca is because they do not match an element, so that chain would build very slow. So average for this team is 40.3 billion. I've seen as high as 47.8. And the max is 50.9. So let's see what happens. Since I'm recording, I'm expecting probably 35. $41, not bad. It's average for this team. So you can see we maxed out damage taken score, which is the big concern with this team. And let's actually go through this for once. Agrius is a little bit over average. Her average is 4.37, and her max is 5.51. Orlando, his average is 10.1, max is 12.7, so he got a pretty good roll. Ramza, his average is 7.6, and his max is 9.6, so just barely over average. Lightning's average is 7.3, max 9.2, so she's a little below. Roca's average is 2.7, max 3.5, so pretty low. And then Die averages 8.1, max 10.2, so right on average. Pretty average run. And when we're looking at this team, like, we can look at Agrius. So she's getting her status immunity from Chains of Protection and finishing off that chain cap with Chains of Strength. She does have a copy of Ramza's Vision card, which will bring her to 300% Reaper Killer. We have Hateful Agent and Anima, which gives her the resist she needs, which is 100% Dark, 40% Earth, 20% Ice. We're using the Crystal Helm. It gives a little bit of defense and it has some LB damage for her, so it's a very good item for tactics units. Titus Garb, obviously we need some, you need a source of preemptive LB boost on her. And then her STMR we have built, I don't think she needs that attack in Magic, that was for an older build. Oh, she does. Yeah, so at least 20% roll on the weapon for attack, and then everything else into defense. And then we have one copy of Prodigious Performer on her, so because she is building up our chain. Orlando has our other copy of Ramza's Vision card, and that's actually the important one. If you have one copy, it should be on Orlando. His weapon's built for as much defense as I had the sanity to roll for, and he has all of our cow gear besides, the other chest. And the reason we're using both Magisters and Emperors on her, on him, which is something I never do, is because he really, really needs these slots for resists. So we have Priestess's Vengeance and Duty to the World, and Hateful Agent. Technically, you could remove Hateful Agent and give him a better materia so that he's immune to everything, but it's not really worth it. So he does still have that 100% dark resist that he needs for turn 1, and then I showed off the resist that he has on turn 4, so he is basically capped on everything but dark. And then obviously because of Ramza's card, he has the Reaper Killer that he needs. He gets 75% from that, and then he's on Ashura, which caps him out. Ramza's on Bahamut. So looking at his damage form first, we have him with his Chronicle Clothing. The reason we're using that instead of the other cow gear is just because it's better overall. Like, obviously the cow gear gives more attack, but it's better to use that on someone who doesn't already have a 176 equivalent chest piece. We have Varus of the Frost vision card on him, which has become my new favorite. So he has taken that one physical hit on turn 1, and the amount of defense that this card gives, while still giving all the same attack that Rick's card or Lightning's card gives, is actually kind of crazy. So I've kind of fallen in love with this card, and Varus of the Frost is probably going to be in my frag dungeon forever. As far as materia goes, I didn't mean to do that. So we do have Satan's STMR to cap out his true double hand, so that way we can fit a second chain speed materia on him. So we have Medine Synergy and Prodigious Performer, and that just ends up being worth more than that extra 12 attack that we'd get from a Zax's Glove. And then obviously Hateful Agent for a little bit more stats. Because he's on Bahamut, that's going to be worth more than Zax's Glove. In the base form, we have him built for defense. You don't need to do that. But he has 100% evasion. He has 110 ice resist, at least 130 earth, and 120 dark. He doesn't need any status immunity. And then in the base form, we have dual cast and Shella's materia on him. And I think I already talked about the Treasured Memorial Ring and the Counter Garb. Lightning is going to be our provoker, so she has the Dancers, she has the Floating Hearts for the death immunity, she has sleep immunity from Moonshade, 100% evasion, Heaven's Guidance from Orin, and then 110, 130, 120, Ice, Earth, Dark. In the shift form, built for damage, she is on Odin, so that and Soaring Legendary Dragon cap her out, and then she doesn't have to worry about chain speed because she's going with Roca. Roca in the shift form, oh yeah, and Lightning's on Rick's card, doesn't really matter, but you could also use Lightning's card. Roca in the shift form, she's using her own vision card. Source of True Double Hand from Carbuncle Synergy, but you could really use anything for that. Reaper Killer, she kind of builds the same every time. In the base form, she does have 100% evasion, 110, 130, 120, Ice, Earth, Dark, Sleep Immunity, and Soul of Thamasa for the double cast, and Barstonra so that she can dual cast Blizzaga, or Bar Blizzaga from Shiva, and Barstonra on turn 1. Die in the base form, Saint